Good morning and welcome to our next maths lesson. Okay, so today we are going to be looking at dividing by multiples of 10, 100 and 1000. Please could you all just pause the video now and copy down today's short date and learning objective. Right, you should have had that copied down by now, so let's have a look. Now before we start looking at today's objective, I just wanted to touch on yesterday's objective and just have a quick review of that, please. So we've got a couple of questions here for you to complete, and the first one says each plate has a mass of 0.3 kilograms. If a restaurant has 1,000 plates, how much do they all weigh all together? So in this question you need to think about one plate weighs 0.3 kilograms, so how can we work out how much 1,000 plates weigh? And question number 2 says, each glass has a mass of 0.15 kilograms. What is the total mass of all of the glasses? And I've given you a little tip here. You might want to think about how many glasses are there in total on this picture. So the first thing you might want to do is count how many glasses there are in this picture. And if one of those glasses weighs 0.15 kilograms, how can we work out what all of those would weigh together? So you need to now pause this video and calculate the answers to those two questions, and then very soon we will go through the answers and you can mark them for yourself. So please pause the video now. Okay, so you should have had enough time there to go through, and you should have got two answers that we are now going to check. So for question number 1 here first, we knew that one plate weighed 0.3 kilograms, and we wanted to know how much 1,000 plates would weigh. So for this we should have done the calculation, 0.3 multiplied by 1,000. Here we should have remembered that time moves forward, and we should have remembered to count our zeros to know that there are 3 jumps. And if we'd have done that, we'd have got the answer of 300 kilograms as the total weight of all 1,000 plates. And the second question here, we knew that 0.15 kilograms was the weight of one glass, and we could see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 glasses in total here in this drawing, and therefore we should have done 0.15 multiplied by 10. Again, we know that time moves forward. Here there is only the 1 0 in 10, and therefore the decimal point can move 1 jump forward, and we get our answer as 1.5 kilograms. Please mark your answers. Right, let's start having a look at today's questions then. Okay, I'm going to go through a couple of examples just like I did yesterday. So the first example here is 65.9 divided by 10. Now yesterday we learned that the first thing we should always do is look at the operation. And yesterday the operation was always timesing or multiplying. Today we're going to look at dividing. Now we should know that just like add or addition is the inverse or opposite of subtract, multiply is the inverse or opposite of divide. And therefore if times moves forward and now we are dividing, which is the opposite of times, the opposite of going forwards is to go backwards. So just like time moves forward, if we are dividing, we move backwards. And then again, just like yesterday, we count the number of zeros in the number we are dividing by. This time it is the number 10, and there is 1 0 there, which tells us we are going to do just the 1 jump backwards. Just like yesterday now, we write down our initial number, the number from the question, which is 65.9. And because I've made my little annotation here again, I can see that all I am doing is doing 1 jump backwards. And here I have got a new place for my decimal point to go. So I can get rid of, cross out, or ignore the old decimal point. Just like yesterday now, we write our answer underneath, so we can clearly see it and we're not going to make any silly errors. And then finally, we write our answer in the correct place in the question. So our answer, 65.9 divided by 10, is equal to 6.59. Let's have a look at a second example. So this time we've got slightly larger numbers, but it doesn't make it any more difficult as long as we remember the rules which we are using here. So again, time moves forward, divide is the opposite of times, so therefore we are moving backwards. Again now, we count our zeros in the number 100. There are 2 of them. So this tells us instead of doing the 1 jump, as we did when we were dividing by 10, this time we are going to do 2 jumps backwards. Just as we did yesterday, and just as we did in the first example here, the first thing we are going to do is write down our number, which is 7,092 divided by 3. It is the number from the original question. I can see from my annotation here, I need to do 2 jumps backwards. 1, 2. I now have a new space for my decimal point, and I can get rid of my old decimal point. Now, to avoid those silly mistakes that we sometimes make, it is really important that we rewrite our answer underneath our working out. And again, the final step is to write our answer in the correct place on the question. And now we can see that 7,092.3 divided by 100 is equal to 70.923. So now I want you to have a go, please, at questions 3, 4, 5 and 6. And we will go through these answers in a moment's time. So please pause the video now to give yourself enough time to complete those 4 questions. When you have completed them and got your answers, please press play, and then we will go through the answers together. So please pause the video now. Okay, so you should have had enough time there to have answered those 4 questions, and let's look at the answers here. So in 384 divided by 100, we should have known we were jumping backwards because of the division sign. We should have known we were doing 2 jumps. If we do 2 jumps from 384, we get to 3.84. In number 4, we are now doing 3 jumps backwards, and we get to 90.8. That is a typing error from me. We should have got 9.0825. And on number 5 here, we are dividing by 10. Remember what I said yesterday? We cannot see the decimal point in the number 29. If ever we cannot see the decimal point in a number, it comes at the end. It is hiding because we have 0 decimal places after it, so we don't see it. But it always comes at the end if we cannot see the decimal point. Now if I do that 1 jump back from here, because of the 1, 0 and 10, I can see that my answer is 2.9. Okay, so if you've got that question wrong, the chances are you have forgotten that in the number 29, the decimal point comes at the end because we cannot see it. And that is the case in any number. If ever we cannot see the decimal point, it comes at the end of the number. And then the last question, number 6, again we should be doing 2 jumps backwards here, and we should have then got to 87.226. So please mark your work. Remember that this answer to number 4, that is a typing error on my part, and it should be 9.0825. Okay, let's take this to the next level now, because we've done that sort of thing before. So let's look at the next level here, like we did yesterday. So I'm going to go take you through a couple of examples, just like earlier on, and just like in yesterday's session. And we're going to look at dividing by multiples of 10, 100 or 1000 now. So we can see that the number 20 is made up by 10 times 2. So if we're dividing by 20, we first have to divide by 10 and then divide by 2. So we can rewrite our question here by 89.45 divided by 10 and then divided by 2. Now, it's important to make sure you're aware here, yes, 20 is made of 10 times 2, but remember, today we are dividing by this 20, we are not timesing. So, if we want to divide by 20, first we have to divide by 10 and divide by 2. If we divided by 10 and then times by 2, instead we would just be dividing by 5. Okay, so it's really important to remember that because we are dividing here, when we rewrite our sum, we are writing 89.45 divided by 10 divided by 2. Now, just like yesterday, we're going to break this question down, and we're going to start with our first section of this calculation, 89.45 divided by 10. Again, as I just showed you a few moments ago, the first thing you do is write down the original number. We then can see we are dividing, so we are going to be jumping backwards. There is 1 0, so we are only doing one jump backwards. We now have a new place for a decimal point. We can get rid of our old one and we rewrite our answer underneath. However, our question wasn't 89.45 divided by 10. It was 89.45 divided by 20. So now that we've divided by 10, we have to complete our calculation, complete our number sentence, by now dividing our answer by 2. Now you might find this quite tricky, but once you've had a go at this a few times, it will become quite straightforward, just as yesterday's was. Now we should know that when we are dividing, we use a formal method, the bus stop method. And we should remember a saying, inside out. So the first number goes on the inside of the bus stop, and the second number goes on the outside of the bus stop. Inside, out. We can see now that if we imagine that this was a bus stop on the road, at the side of the road, then the number 8.945 is inside the bus stop, keeping dry, keeping safe from the rain, and the number 2 is outside of the bus stop, getting wet. And this is why I was saying inside, out is very, very important to remember here, so we don't get our numbers mixed up. From here, we continue to go inside out. So we start from the inside and we look at what 8 divided by 2. And we know that 8 divided by 2 is simply 4. Now for some people, I know that division is difficult, and therefore if you have been taught to draw dots to help you with this, please do that when you are working out this question, okay? Now, the thing that's difficult here, and the thing that we need to remember, is we have got a decimal point in our number 8.945. Now, just like when we are adding or multiplying, decimal points stay in a vertical line. It is the same with dividing. So this decimal point has to stay in a vertical line. And then we continue as we would do in a usual division sum. So we move to our next number, 9 divided by 2. Again, if you need to draw dots, if you need to write down your times table, do that, okay? 9 divided by 2 is 4, remainder 1. So again, we put our 4 and we carry our remainder of 1 across to the next digit. We now move to the next digit, which is now the number 14, and we are dividing that by 2. Again, draw dots, write down your times tables if you need to, but 14 divided by 2 is equal to 7. This time there is no remainder, because 7 times 2 is 14, so we do not need to carry anything across. And then finally we get to our last digit, 5 divided by 2, which is 2, remainder 1. So we would put the number 2. Now because we've already got to our 3 decimal places here, and we have continued, we have still got a remainder, we've still got this remainder of 1, because we have not completed the sum, we can just put dot dot dot, and we can leave it like that. Because at our age in year 6, we do not need to go past 3 decimal places, okay? And it's just like when we are representing the fraction 1/3 as a decimal, we know that that is 0.3 recurring. The 3 goes on and on and on and on and on. But we can just write that as 0.333. It is the same here. We are showing the person marking our work that yes, there is still a remainder, but we have got to the first, second, third decimal place, and therefore we can just put 3 dots. So our answer would be 4.472. Let's have a look at a second example, because I can imagine this is a lot trickier than the first set of questions that you had to complete. So here now we've got 790.4 divided by 50. Again, we can partition the number 50 into 10 multiplied by 5. But remember, in this question we are dividing, we are not multiplying. So when we rewrite our question here, we need to write the number 790.4 divided by 10, and then divided by 5. Just like before, we are now going to do the first bit of our number sentence first. So 790.4 divided by 10. We can rewrite our first number. We know we are dividing, so our jumps are going backwards. We know there is 1 0, so it has 1 jump. And then we rewrite our number underneath. However, just like before, we have only done the first bit of our calculation here. We have done 790.4 divided by 10. But our question was 790.4 divided by 50. So now we need to complete our calculation. So we take our answer, 79.04, and we now need to divide it by 5. Again, for this type of question, we would be using our bus stop, and we remember our saying, I hope you can start to remember it, inside out. So inside the bus stop, keeping nice and dry, is our number, is our first number, 79.04, and on the outside is our second number, the number 5. And if you remember that saying inside out, that will help you when laying out any division sum using the bus stop method. Okay? Now, if we want, we know our decimal point has to go in a vertical line, so we could put it in already up here, so we don't forget to put it in when we get to writing our answer. We remember our saying again here, inside out, so we start with the inside, 7, and we divide by the outside, 5. Again, if you need to do dots, draw them. If you need to write your times table down, write it down. So 7 divided by 5 is 1, remainder 2. So we put our 1 as our whole, and we carry our remainder across to the next digit. We now move on, and we have 29 divided by 5. Now again, if you need to use dots, if you need to write down your times table, do it. But 29 divided by 5 would be 5, remainder 4. So our whole goes at the top of the bus stop, and our remainder carries across to the next digit. We now have 40 divided by 5, which would give us 8. We do not have a remainder here because 8 times 5 gives us 40. We now move to our last digit, which is 4 divided by 5. Now, if you draw dots, or if you write down your times table, you will see that number 5 does not fit into the number 4 at all. So we have 0 here. And we have to carry our 4 across because we still have the 4 left over. Now here we have not got to 3 decimal places yet. We have only got 1, 2. So this is where we extend our line. We put an extra 0, a placeholder down here, and we carry our remainder across once again. So now we have 40 divided by 5, and we know that 40 divided by 5 is 8 without a remainder. So now we can put our answer in the correct place as 15.808, and we have there completed that question. So now what I would like you to do is have a go, please, at questions 3, 4, 5 and 6. I know these will be a bit trickier, but I want you to have a real go. If you need to go back and watch my examples again, if you need to rewind, so you can write down the question number 3 in your maths book, you could then rewind this video and watch my explanation again to help you work out your answer. Remember, this is a multiple of 100, so partition it. Divide it first by 100, and then divide it by 4. And do the same for number 4, 5 and 6. So if you pause your video now, have a go at answering those questions, and then press play when you have got an answer for numbers 3, 4, 5 and 6. Okay, you should have finished those questions now. Let's go through the answers. So the first one, as I said before, we should have divided by the 100 and then divided by 4. And we'd have got the answer 11.419. Now remember, we have got these 3 dots here because of the last division that we did had a remainder. So we know it's not this accurate, we know it would carry on, but we do not need to write that down at this level. Number 4, we should have divided by 1000 to get to 2.233, and then divided it by 2 to get to 1.116 ... Again, these dots are there because there was a remainder at the end of our 3 decimal places. Number 5, we should have divided by 10 first to get to 4.94, and then divided by 8 to get to 0.617 ... You know it because there was a remainder at the end of our answer. And the last one, number 6, we should have divided by 100 first to get to 6.924, and then divided it by 4 to get to 1.731. Now the reason why there are no ellipses here, there are no dots after the number, is because there was no remainder at the end of our question. Okay, so mark your work please. If you've got a couple wrong, have a second go at it now. Have a second go. Make sure you're partitioning it correctly. So 2,233 divided by 1,000 divided by 2, 49.4 divided by 10 divided by 8, and 692.4 divided by 100 divided by 4. Have a second go and see if you can get the right answer. Okay? Remember, you can rewind the video to listen to the steps that you need to follow again, if that will help you with working out the answers. So, just like yesterday, what you now need to do is log on to Class Dojo and complete the maths activity which has been set for today. Now remember, all the maths activities that are set on Class Dojo are linked to our lesson that we have just done. So a big clue for you there is that the activity on Class Dojo, you will have to be using what we now know about dividing by 10, 100 and 1000 to answer those questions. Remember, if you are struggling with this, me and Miss Beck are live on Microsoft Teams from 10:30 until 11 to give you support with this maths work. Please log on to the Teams at this time if you need this support. Now, a couple of people did that yesterday and required the support, asked for the support, and by the end of that session were much more confident with what they were doing. So if you do find yourself struggling, please attend that half-an-hour session. It is a question and answer session so that we can help you through. Remember though, if you have completed the work confidently, as some of you did yesterday as well, which was very pleasing to see, you do not need to log on to this session. So if you've completed the work, you're confident with what you were doing, you know the steps you need to follow, you do not need to log on to the session at 10:30. But if you've struggled with any of this, or you struggle with the activity sheet on Class Dojo, please log on to Teams at 10:30. We're both there for half an hour to help you with your problems. Okay. Have a good day. We'll see you in a little bit for English. Thank you very much. Goodbye.